The Knox and Kane Railroad is a tourist excursion line, 97 miles long and located in northwest Pennsylvania, the scenic heart of the rugged but mineral-rich Allegheny Forest. Running excursion trains from Marionville at the southern terminus to historic Kinzue Bridge at the north end, the Knox and Kane features steam locomotives as its primary motive power. The railroad is owned by Sloan Cornell, a longtime rail enthusiast and tourist line operator. A sense of fun from the owner and his very professional staff make the Knox and Kane a pleasant and fascinating experience for visitors to the area. Historically, the development of Pennsylvania's natural resources has been intimately connected to the advance and progress of the nation's railroads. As America grew and developed into an industrial giant and a world power, coal, oil, and lumber were cut and mined and hauled east to the Atlantic coast mills and markets. The line on which today the Knox and Kane carries tourists was formerly a branch line of the B&O and was originally built during the late 1800s by General Thomas Kane for the purpose of bringing raw materials out of his immense frontier land holdings. This stretch of tracks was then part of General Kane's own railroads, the New York, Lake Erie, and Western. As the railroad pushed south from the Erie's terminus in Bradford, Pennsylvania, the track crossed a high plateau in the mountains until it confronted a chasm that was 300 feet deep and 2,000 feet wide. This was the valley of Kinzue Creek, and the drop here presented General Kane with a difficult choice. Either build 4 miles of twisting, 2% grade, to go down and through the valley, or build a bridge, a viaduct, to cross over the valley. In spite of the fact that such a bridge would be higher than any other railroad bridge ever built anywhere in the world, General Kane was a man of vision and daring, and very rich. He decided to build the bridge, and on May 10, 1882, construction of the Kinzue Viaduct began. Unlike modern projects that run over budget and seem to last forever, this massive undertaking was completed in just 94 working days by a crew of just 40 men. The original Kinzue Viaduct used more than 3 million pounds of ironwork to form a structure 301 feet high and 2,053 feet long. When it was completed, Kinzue Viaduct was the highest railroad bridge in the world and was advertised as the 8th wonder of the world. While the bridge was active, it attracted many tourists and visitors, with hundreds coming on Sunday excursion trips to see or cross the bridge. The bridge was a major engineering feat, and it cost only $167,000 to build. In order to handle an increase in tonnage and larger locomotives, the original bridge was replaced by a newer and stronger structure in 1900, just 18 years later. The new and present bridge is identical in height and size to the old structure, but was designed to handle the modern double-headed consolidated type locomotives as well as the heavy coal trains that now dominate the area. The new bridge was also built in record time, just 4 months, with a crew of 100 to 150 men. The bridge's iron was replaced with almost 7 million pounds of steel. The river viaduct in Texas has since surpassed Kinzue as the highest railroad bridge in the U.S., but the bridge in western Pennsylvania is still a grand sight for visitors to the area. On April 12, 1963, an area surrounding the viaduct and its valley became a state park, and 24 years later, entrepreneur Sloan Cornell, the owner of the Knox and Kane Railroad, reopened the bridge for crossing by train. Rail traffic had ceased in 1959 when the B&O, then the owners of the route, abandoned the branch. In 1963, the entire area surrounding Kinzue Bridge was dedicated as the Kinzue State Park. While freight had continued to be carried on the line until 1982, passenger service had been discontinued years before. But in 1982, the newly formed Knox and Kane Railroad purchased the track and the right-of-way from Knox to Mount Jewett. The new owner, Cornell, was a longtime train enthusiast, and he had a plan. It was his hope to expand his line, to reach from Marionville in the south all the way to Kinzua Bridge up north. This would make a complete round-trip distance of 97 miles, and the all-day excursion would include the option of crossing the famed bridge. In 1986, Cornell signed a 35-year lease to take over use and operation of the bridge. After inspecting the structure for safety and laying new track from Mount Jewett, a Y was constructed on the north side of the bridge for turning locomotives. From the Gettysburg Railroad, also owned by Mr. Cornell, came motive power for the inaugural runs. Ex-Huntington and Broadtop number 38. A diesel would be used to pull the first excursion from Marionville to Mount Jewett, where the Baldwin-built 280 steam locomotive would take over for the actual crossing. The date was set for August 7, 1987, with a 5-car VIP special to be assembled behind number 38. The chosen day turned out to be a beautiful day, sunny and hot. When the consist reached the viaduct in mid-afternoon, the train was stopped so that those passengers who did not wish to challenge the span could disembark. Then, slowly and ever so gingerly, number 38 eased forward onto the bridge. This was a great moment for Cornell and the Knox and Kane Railroad, and a day of glory for rail fans. This was the first train to cross the Kinzua Viaduct in almost 3 years. Once safely across the bridge, number 38 was disconnected from the rest of the train and turned on the Y. She would be reconnected to her consist and pull the train back across the bridge, slowly picking up speed for the run back to Marionville. A proud moment for Sloan Cornell. After more than 30 years, the towering Kinzua Viaduct was now an operating part of the tourist line's daily excursion route. Since reopening the Kinzua Viaduct in 1987, the Knox and Kane Railroad has become a popular attraction for tourists, especially those who are railroad enthusiasts. The scenic Allegheny National Forest, with its round wooded slopes and gently curving valleys, provide a visual delight for the millions who visit or pass through the area every year. And many of those visitors enjoy seeing this beautiful land from a seat aboard one of the Knox and Kane's passenger specials. The new route is a 97-mile round trip starting in Marionville with midpoint at the north side of the Kinzua Viaduct. In between, the railroad winds its way through thick, rugged woods and several small farms, laboriously carved from the scrub-hard wilderness. The train passes through several small towns as well: Russell City, Kane, and Mount Jewett. Once thriving towns built by coal mining and railroad interests, they served as way stations and loading points for the B&O, and before that time, the New York, Lake Erie, and Western Railroad. At Kane, the Knox and Kane crosses tracks of the Allegheny Railroad, and at Mount Jewett, the line interchanges with the B&P Railroad. As the tourist line has grown in reputation, owner Cornell began looking into acquiring another steam locomotive to share duties with number 38. The result of his search was a decision to purchase a brand new steam locomotive to be built especially for the Knox and Kane by the Tangshan Locomotive Works in China. Officially designated SY 1658M, with the M suffix denoting an American spec locomotive, number 1658 was built to American specifications under the direct supervision of Mr. Cornell. An SY Class 282, 1658, is one of 3 steam locomotives built in 1989, specifically for American tourist railroads. Number 8419, a JS Class 282, was built by the Datong Locomotive Works for the Boone and Scenic Valley Railroad, located in Boone, Iowa. 8419 was the last steam locomotive to be built by Datong, which was converting its production line to electric locomotives exclusively. The Tangshan Locomotive Works built 2 SY class locomotives for American clients. In addition to number 1658, built for the Knox and Kane, Tang Shan also built number 1647 for the Valley Railroad in Essex, Connecticut. Both of these sister locomotives have 2A2 wheel configurations. The SY class weighs in at 100 tons with 39,000 pounds of tractive effort and another 600 pounds available with a booster. The locomotives were delivered to the port of Camden, New Jersey, where they sat for 2 months in Conrail's Beckett Street yard waiting for roadworthiness inspections. Number 1658 was delivered in almost operable condition, needing only the attachment of a few accessories to be ready for work. Inspection was performed in May, and number 1658 was finally delivered to the Knox and Kane in June of 1990. Now the top gun of the Knox and Kane, while number 38 waits for servicing, she stands tall as her crew prepares her for a weekend run to Kinzhou Viaduct. As normal maintenance work is performed, 1658 waits to be connected to her consist. Her bright, new red cowcatcher catches the gleam of the morning sun. The Friday excursion is a passenger and freight special, assembled by the Knox and Kane for the media, VIPs, and the cameras of Berkshire Productions. 2 hopper cars and 3 passenger cars are pulled by 1658 through the countryside, giving riders a feel for the way railroads were many years ago. Brushy woods enveloping a myriad of thin paths. Small towns slowly coming awake to strong, hot coffee. And even an old stone trestle complete the peaceful look.
have to be chopped off?
At the end of the day, the departing passengers have enjoyed an unusual experience. For the crew, however, the end of the all-day excursion means shutdown servicing of the locomotive and cars.
The normal operating train on the Knox and Kane usually includes several comfortable and enclosed passenger cars, with occasionally a gondola car on the rear of the train. With number 38 sitting idle while waiting for much-needed and well-earned servicing, 1658, the Chinese-built locomotive picks up the slack and handles all duties as the line's workhorse.
The Knox and Kane is just a tourist railroad. Their train doesn't go anywhere but back and forth on their line. But from Sloan Cornell on down, the staff takes pride in its work, and the operations reflect their efforts. The Knox and Kane, a short-line tourist railroad, with its 2 steam locomotives and handful of passengers and freight cars, still earning revenues as an active freight carrier. The Knox and Kane is a fascinating operation to observe, but it is the Kinzhou Viaduct, the second highest railroad bridge in the world, that draws the visitors. There are many great experiences in railroading, but none are as thrilling as a ride across Kinzhou Creek aboard the Knox and Kane.